Hello everyone, my name is Mr. Nicholas Mutinda from Nairobi branch. I'll be taking you through principles of management. And in this unit, we will introduce the basic principles of management. At the end of the unit, a learner should be able to understand the basic principles of management, be able to apply them in the contemporary business world, and should be able to manage business organizations profitably or effectively and efficiently. Now, the unit has several chapters, and we are going to discuss those chapters in several videos. This video is the first one of Principles of Management, and we are going to discuss chapter 1. When you are talking about chapter 1 simply talks about definition of management. It introduces the learners to the management. It introduces what do we mean by management. It goes further to discuss about the management process. And then we'll finish with the importance of management. You go into the preceding videos, there will be a video discussing about theories of management. Then as we go on, you'll see, because there are several chapters. Chapter 2 is talking about theories of management, and it is simply discussing how management has evolved over time. What has changed? What is changing? What has remained static since management as a profession started? And how can we be able to ensure that we remain relevant in the context of the changes that are happening? Chapter 3 is about management functions, and this is the longest chapter. We will discuss all the 6 functions of management. Each function will be designated as a topic. We'll start with planning. Then after planning, we'll go to organizing. Then after organizing, we will discuss about staffing. Then after staffing, we will discuss about coordinating, leading, motivating, controlling. We will discuss all the functions. We'll discuss all those functions and see how we can be able to understand them. And then in the 4th chapter, we'll be discussing about the context of management. And when you're talking about the context of management, we'll be simply talking about what are the levels of management, what are the attributes of a good manager, what are the qualities of a good manager, what are the duties and responsibilities of a manager in the day-to-day business running. And then we will then discuss about administration in management, and then finish with contemporary issues in management. And then finish with the contemporary issues in management. And then finish with contemporary issues in management. So what do we mean by management? Chapter 1, Introduction to Management. 1.1, Definition of Management. So what do we mean by management? When we talk about management, what is management? And in a nutshell, management is the science and art of getting people together to accomplish desired goals and objectives by coordinating and integrating all available resources efficiently and effectively. Management is the science and art of getting people together to accomplish desired goals and objectives by coordinating and integrating all available resources efficiently and effectively. How are you able to bring all the resources of the organization, be it human resources, be it labor, be it capital, be it the methods? How can you be able to bring all those resources together in order to achieve the organizational objectives? And these organizational objectives, you are trying to see how can you be able to achieve them efficiently and effectively. Looking at that definition, there are several keywords. There are 5 keywords in that definition. Number 1 is what we call science and arts. Science and arts. What is the difference between science? What is the difference between science and arts? When we talk about science, what do we mean? And science is basically something that can be facts, something that can be empirically proven, something that can be scientifically proven. And when you are talking about management being a science and arts, we simply mean that there are some aspects of management which are scientific in nature, which can be scientifically proven. For instance, when you are talking about accounts include figures. It involves figures, and these figures are facts. These are things that they don't change. They can't change. So you find that science, accounting, is an aspect of management which is scientific in nature. Now, we also know that if you don't motivate your employees, if there is no harmony in the department will not be able to perform productively. That is a fact. That is scientific in nature. Now, when you are talking about an art is a learned skill. Is a learned skill, something that you learn over time. By practicing, you can be able to learn. For instance, when you are talking about interacting with people, motivating employees, that is part of the management. But now, motivation, you learn over time. These are skills you learn by doing things over and over again. So you find that is an aspect of management that is art in nature. So management is a science and art. Some of the aspects are scientific, other aspects are art in nature. Now, when you are talking about desired goals and objectives, that is another key word. And what we mean is, in every management, be it at the kiosk level, be it at the middle level, be it at the multinational level, there is an objective to be achieved. There is a desired objective. There is a certain goal to be achieved. So people are working towards achieving a certain objective. It may be probably to increase your profits. It may be to double your market share. It may be to expand. It may be to open new branches. It may be to minimize cost. There is a desired objective. There is a desired goal. Number 2 is there is a desired goal. Desired goal. Another key word in that definition is what we call coordination and integration. Integration of activities. And when you're talking about integration or coordinating, we simply mean that there is no individual employee, no matter how best he is, no matter how efficient he is, who can be able to achieve the organizational objectives alone. So you depend on the efforts of each one in the organization. If you are talking about a department, all employees in the department will be able to achieve the organizational objectives. So you have to integrate all the efforts of the people. You have to integrate all the efforts of the methods. It is an integrating process. If you are talking about probably a company or an organization which has several departments, it takes the efforts of all those departments for the organization to achieve its objectives. A single department cannot be able to achieve the objectives of the organization. It depends on the coordination of each and every department in that organization. It depends on the efforts and it takes the efforts of each and every branch for the organization to achieve its objectives. It takes the efforts of each employee in the organization for the organization in order to achieve the organizational objectives. So you have to coordinate, and that is the work of a manager. If he fails to coordinate the efforts of other employees, that then he has failed as a manager, because your work is to coordinate. Your work is to integrate the efforts of each one in the organization. Another word is effectively and efficiently. And when you talk about effectively and efficiently, what do we mean? The world we are living in is characterized by limited resources and unlimited ones. So the resources are few. So you have to ensure that you utilize the resources that you have in order to maximize your benefits. And this is an aspect of management. How can you be able to optimize the resources that you have? How can you be able to ensure that there is efficiency in the organization? How can you be able to ensure that the tasks are being done effectively? Is it possible? Is it necessary to have three desks, probably at a bank, for us to open an account? How effective is it? Or is it bringing some bureaucracy? Is it bringing some inefficiency? Because we are talking about efficiently and effectively. How can you be able to utilize the resources that you have to ensure that you maximize the benefit and minimize the cost? That is the aspect of management. Because you have been given few resources and you are being talked about to ensure that there is high productivity. The organization will be able to achieve its organizational objectives more efficiently and more effectively. And then the last keyword is what we talk about: available resources. Available resources. Available resources. When we are talking about available resources is divided into 5 M's. 5 M's, where we have men, where we have machines, where we have money, where we have materials, and where we have money. There's money, methods. That is basically the available resources that we are talking in an organization. When you're talking about men, we are simply talking about human resources. The labor that is available in the organization. The labor. How can you be able to utilize the human resources? The labor that is available in the organization. Do you require 20 employees? All 15 can do the same work without affecting productivity. Do we require somebody to be doing photocopying? Do we require somebody to be washing? Do we require somebody to be cooking tea? Or that work can be done by just one person? How can you be able to utilize the human resources? Men. When you're talking about machines, these are the equipments. How many computers do you have in the office? How many chairs do you have? Can we be able to work with 5 computers instead of 10? Or we have 5 computers. Can we be able to work with those 5 computers? Or do we need more? Those are the machines we are talking about. if you are talking about in the context of an office, if you are talking about in the context of a production, are the machines that we have, are they working to the capacity? What is their capacity? Are they working at 100% capacity? Or they are working at 70%? How can we increase their capacity in order to ensure that they are being utilized effectively? When you are talking about money, those are the capital, the money that you are able to acquire those equipments, those pay. How can we be able to utilize the money? When you are talking about raw materials, we are simply talking about raw materials. Raw materials. What are the inputs in the organization? Probably there is a byproduct which has been going to waste. How can we be able to utilize? Take for instance, when you're talking about a sugar factory. You see, sugarcane produces sugar, but there is another byproduct. How can we be able? And you find that sugar factories have devised ways of ensuring that the sugar factory does not only produce sugar, but it can also be used to produce molasses, can be also to produce ethanol. Because we are talking about the materials. The next one is methods. Are your methods effective? A person comes to the desk. He has to pass through desk 1. He has to go to desk 2. He has to go to desk 3. Is it necessary? Is it necessary? Or can we be able to do away with the desk 2 and remain with desk 1 and desk 3? Can we be able to do with desk 3 and remain with the desk 1 and 2? Are the methods, are the procedures effective? Are they increasing efficiency or they are hindering efficiency? Methods. Now, having said that, that is the definition of management. That is the definition of management. However, we can look at, for us to understand management more, we can look at something that was developed by Peter Drucker. And he said that management can be understood in 3 aspects. And he talked about management as an economic factor, to management as a system of authority, 3, management as a class, or status. So when we talk about management as an economic activity, as an economic factor, what do we mean? We are simply saying that, remember, we have 4 factors of production. We have what we call labor, we have what we call land, we have capital, and we have entrepreneurship. Now, you as the manager, you are entering in that equation as an entrepreneur. You are taking the place of an entrepreneur. That's why we are saying management as an economic factor. Because you come in, you are given land, you are given labor, and you are given capital. How can you be able to optimally use these 3 factors of production in order to achieve the organizational objective, in order to ensure the organization turns a profit, in order to maximize profits? How can you be able to utilize, and you are being regarded as an economic factor? You are being regarded as an economic factor. How can you be able to optimally utilize these other 3 resources? That's why you're being called what? An economic factor. And you look clearly, practically, you'll see that probably you as a manager, you have been given that authority, because probably you are managing your own business. or you have been employed. When you are employed, you have been given labor. You are in charge of others. You are an economic factor. How can you be able to utilize those others? Now, when you are talking about management as a system of authority, what do we mean by management as a system of authority? Management as a system of authority means that you as a manager, you are in charge of a certain department. You are in charge of a certain branch. You are in charge of an organization. You can direct. You can allocate. You can lead. Now, people when face challenges, they are looking upon you to make decisions. You make decisions on behalf of the organization because you are an authority. You are a system of authority. You can direct people. You can allocate resources. You can change procedures. You can control the people. You are a system of authority because you have been given authority and responsibility. You can be questioned because you are in charge of a certain department. You are in charge of a certain branch. You are in charge of a subsection. You are in charge of an organization. You are a system of authority. You can direct, you can allocate resources, probably you can hire, you can fire, you can punish, you can reward, because you are a system of authority. You are a system of authority. People look upon you to make decisions on their behalf, on behalf of the organization. You are a system of authority. That's why even when things go haywire, you will be questioned because you have control. If procedures and rules and procedures are not followed and a mess happens, you are the first one to be questioned because you had authority to control. You had the function of controlling their people to ensure that they follow the rules and the regulations. Management as a system of authority. And then lastly, management as a class or status. Management as a class or status. So what do we mean by management as a class or status? What do we mean by management as a class or status? And we mean that you as the manager, you are required to behave in a certain way. You are required, or you are expected to have a certain knowledge, to be knowledgeable, to have a good behavior, to have certain traits, because you are status. You are in a certain class. That's why you find you are paid even highly, because you have responsibility. People do not expect you to come late in the workplace. People do not expect you to misbehave. People do not expect you to have misconduct, because there is a certain class, there is a certain status. When you join people and you find that they are gossiping, they don't expect you to gossip because you are in a certain class. Management as what? Management as a status or system, status or class. Now, before we go to characteristics, there is some NEB to note, something to note of management, something to note of management. NEB. And the NEB is management may have undergone metamorphosis. may have undergone changes and still is undergoing. Management may have undergone metamorphosis, in brackets changes, and still is undergoing changes. But the objective of management remains the same: to achieve the organizational objectives effectively and efficiently. All those other things may change. The principles may change. The way of doing management may change, but the objective has not changed. It still remains to achieve the organizational objectives efficiently and effectively. Now, having said that, you can go to characteristics of management. Characteristics of management. What are the characteristics of management? Some of them we have discussed when we were discussing about definition. Characteristics of management. And number one is that management is universal. Management is universal. And when you talk about management being universal, we simply mean that it applies across, be it a smaller organization, be it a multinational, be it a kiosk, it applies across. Even in the organization itself, if you are talking about top management, if you are talking about middle management, if you are talking about the organizational level, management applies across. The principles are the same. So management is universal. It applies to everyone. Whether it is an organization of 20,000 employees or your life, you need to manage your life. The basics are the same. If you as a manager of your life, you don't utilize your resources effectively, you will still not achieve what you want to achieve. Because management is universal. So ensure you plan your day. Ensure you use your resources wisely in order for you to achieve the organization objectives. If you don't do that, you will not be able. It is a universal process. Another thing that is that management is systematic. It requires a process. There are procedures to be followed. If you are talking about hiring people, there is a procedure. You advertise. People show interest in your working for you. You shortlist. You call them for interviews. You select the best. That is a process. If you are talking about procurement, you get what is required. You invite suppliers to quote the prices, to bid. From there, you choose the best price. From there, you invite them to bring the goods, to bring the raw materials. From there, they go to the accounts department for payment. That is a process. So management is systematic. It involves a process. Another thing is that management is purposeful. Purposeful. Is goal-oriented. We have talked about that. It's goal-oriented. You are aiming at achieving a certain objective. Another thing is that management is an integrative process. Integrative process. We have talked about that, whereby you bring all the efforts of the other people, all the efforts of every employee, every department, in order for you to ensure that you are able to achieve the organizational objectives. Another thing is that management is a social process. When you are talking about social process, we simply mean that management involves people. Management involves people. Because These people have feelings. They can be hurt. So it is a social process. Ensure that you have interpersonal skills. When people are bereaved, understand them. It is a social process. Another thing, management is multidisciplinary. It borrows from several disciplines. For you to be a manager, you have to understand some bit of accounting. You have to understand some bit of human resources. You have to understand some bit of marketing. You have to understand some bit of sociology. It is a multidisciplinary. Otherwise, you will not be an effective manager. Take, for instance, you are the head of the organization. You are the MD. And you don't understand the accounting part. Accountants will be stealing the money from the organization, and you are not able to know. And when they steal, remember, it is your responsibility, so you will be questioned. So management is a multidisciplinary. Management is a continuous process. Where we left yesterday is where we are going to pick today. Where we left in 2019 is where we will pick in 2020. Where we left in 2019 is where we picked in 2020, and it is where we will pick when we are through with 2020. Even though there is corona, we will pick it from in 2021. Another thing is that management is intangible. Management is intangible. You can't touch management. You can't touch management. However, you can feel it. You can feel it. Intangible. Intangible. You can feel it. You walk into an organization and you get a bad service. On your way out, you will say this organization has a bad management. You walk into an organization and you get a very good service, you appreciate. You say this organization has very good management. You can feel it based on the service, based on the results. Another thing is that management is a science as well as an art. We have discussed that conclusively. Another thing is that management involves effectiveness and efficiency. We have talked about that. Now, I think that those are enough. Those are the characteristics of management. So, 1.2, management process. 1.2, management process. What do we mean by management process? What do we mean by management process? In order to be an effective manager, one must be able to get the job done. When you talk about the management process, we are actually discussing the process of a manager uses to manage a function. The steps he or she has to take to make sure the job gets done. So you walk into an organization who have been promoted to be the manager, let's say in the human resource department. So what do you do? What are the processes? Or you are employed. There is a new branch of a restaurant. Let's say you are talking about a restaurant. You have opened a restaurant and you are the manager. You have been recruited as a manager. It's a new restaurant. What do you do? Or a bit go further, before you sleep tonight, definitely you will plan for your day tomorrow. All right, I've already answered. You will manage your day. So what do you do? When you're talking about that, all those things, those are management. Number one, management process is what we call planning. You walk into a restaurant, you have been allowed. You have been employed as the new manager of that restaurant. So what does it take? You plan. What do we require? We require 26 here. We require a table there, depending on the social distancing that the corona issues. What are the protocols? Here we require 4 desks, 4 tables. We require 8 chairs, 2 chairs. How many waiters do we require? We require 5 waiters. How many cashiers? 1 is enough. How many chefs? We require 2 chefs. You are planning. If when we are talking about managing your day, you plan what is required. Tomorrow I'm required to attend class. Tomorrow I require to go to work. Tomorrow I'm required to do some shopping. Tomorrow I require to visit a friend. That is planning. So the first process is planning. And planning, when you're talking about planning, planning is basically setting objectives. And courses to take in order to achieve those objectives. And that's why you find in the organization itself, before the start of every year, before the start of every month, before the start of every, they have to plan. What are we going to achieve in this year? What are we going to achieve? You are planning, setting objectives. How are we going to achieve that? How are we going to achieve that? Process number 2 is what we call organizing. And when we are talking about organizing, we are simply talking about prioritization. Allocating resources. What is required for us to achieve that plan? Tomorrow I will go for a class. Tomorrow I will go for work. Tomorrow I go for shopping. What resources are required? The first resource is time. I will go to work from 8 up to 5. From 5:30 I will go attend classes from 5:30 to 7:30. I will do shopping at the supermarket at 8 p.m. You allocate the resources. You are prioritizing. Which one do I start with first? What else is it required? I require some money. How much for me to do shopping? How much do I need for me to get to my workplace tomorrow? Those things. Because you can't do that without the resources. Number 3 is staffing. And staffing, if you are talking about at the organizational level, what are the staffs? What are the human resources required? Probably you are talking about opening a new branch. Do you have enough human resources? How do I get them? Because you have planned very well, you have organized very well, but you need the right number and the right kind of employees. You need the right quality and the right quantity of employees in order to drive your plan, in order to achieve your objectives. So what are those? What are the employees required? Staffing. The next stage is what we call leading, motivating, directing. Number 4. So you have acquired these employees. Are you giving them direction? Are you directing them? Are you leading them? Are they well motivated enough? Because they matter whether you are going to achieve your organization objectives or not. The company may have good plans. It may organize very well. It may have the best employees in the market. But if your employees are not directed well, if your employees are not motivated as required, you will not be able to achieve the organizational objectives. So it is very critical for managers to ensure that the employees are well motivated, are well directed, they are given the right leadership. That is a very good step, a very critical step. Number 5 is controlling. And when you are talking about controlling, we simply mean that organizations, department, branches, they operate were under rules and regulations. Probably the rules and the regulations may be coming from the regulator, the government, or maybe devised from the organization itself. For instance, employees here are required to report at 8 and leave at 5 p.m. That is a rule, that is a regulation. So the managers work to ensure that people are working within those guidelines. People are following the procedures. People are working within the limits set. Because failure to do that, the organization may not be able to achieve its objectives. Then number 6 is what we call coordination. You have to coordinate. You have to coordinate. Ensure that all the branches, all the departments, all the employees are working towards a common objective. There must be coordination. If you are talking about an organization doing manufacturing, there is a production department. That department depends on raw materials procured from the purchasing and supplies. The purchasing and supplies depends on suppliers being paid on time by the accounts department. There must be coordination in those departments: production, procurement, and accounts of finance. If you are talking about probably marketing, it depends on the quality of goods and services that are being produced by the procurement department. You get raw materials which are substandard, definitely it will lead to substandard goods. If finance and accounts does not pay suppliers in time, there will be delay in the next supply of raw materials. That delay will affect the production department. That production department stalling at the production department, it ensures that the marketing department has no goods and services to supply to its customers. And you find there is an AY. And those are what we call the management process. The management process. Now, lastly, the last subtopic of chapter 1 is what we call importance of management. 1.3, importance of management. What is the importance of management? Why is it important for us to have management? Number one is it helps to achieve group efforts. It helps to achieve organizational efforts, organizational goals. Take for instance where there is no management. Is the organization able to achieve its objectives? Walk into a department, this department is supposed to produce 20 chairs per day. Then the manager is not around and there is no one in charge. So are they able to achieve that? Definitely no. So it helps to achieve group goals, organizational goals. It helps in optimum utilization of resources. Optimum utilization of resources. Take for instance, in the first case, if the manager is not around, and then now we are supposed to produce 20 chairs per day, and we have 10 workers, and there is no manager. So those workers, most of the time, they will be sitting idle because there is no one to supervise them. That is a waste resource. That is a waste resource. So you find that there is a problem. There is a problem. Number 3 is to reduce costs. Managers help in reduction of costs. When there is no manager, you find that the organization may be undergoing, may not be able to minimize these costs. Number 4, it helps in establishing sound organizations. Take for instance Equity Bank. James Mwangi joins the Equity Bank. Then after some time, you find the Equity Bank is doing well. He has established a sound organization. Even if he leaves, the organization will leave because his programs, he has set up programs, he has set up procedures. There is work being done. Managers help establish sound organizations. You find that a department has been struggling. It has not been achieving its objectives. But a manager comes in and establishes the department as a sound organization, establish a sound organization. Another thing is encourages initiative. A good management encouraging initiative. Employees can be able to walk in and come up with new ways of doing things. Innovation is encouraged. It encourages initiative. It encourages innovation. And most of them find that when there is a good management, you find that the manager, obviously, in the most cases, has an open door policy where employees can just walk in, bring up their innovations, bring up their new initiative. They can be able to come up with new ways in order to increase efficiency and effectiveness in the organization. Improves life of workers, improves corporate image. You find that when there is a good management, an organization is able to establish itself as a good brand, as a good corporate image, good brand. Look at Safaricom, what has done. That is a corporate brand. It took the efforts of the management. Without that, you can imagine what will happen. Improved relations. And then improved relations. And another very critical point is that management encourages teamwork. Remember, we have said no individual employee No individual department may be able to achieve the organization objectives. It requires the efforts of each employee, the efforts of each department for the organization to achieve its objectives. So it encourages teamwork. If there is no teamwork, the organization might not be able to achieve its objectives. So that is a very key importance of management. It's a very key importance of management. Now, I think we'll stop there. We'll stop there. That will be the end of the first video of principles of management, and we have tackled about chapter 1, introduction to management. I would request that you continue watching the following videos. The other videos, they will be labeled. And kindly subscribe to my YouTube channel. You just need to click there below. Thank you. Bye.